Right, we are live, man. Well, it's been a minute. We both had some fun adventures. We took the family Europe. You went to the magical land, so it feels good to be back. What what are your biggest highlights from the past month? Because we haven't talked in like a month. It's been crazy.
Past month. Yeah, it's been yeah. I mean, we were at Disneyland for a week, getting back into it this week, but the past month was just crazy. Lots of news too, lots of things happening, in crypto. There was a crash last Friday, but yeah, I think things just like a month is a year, feels like a year now.
Right, dude. The all the change is so intense. Well, can't talk. Yeah, we were gone. Like I know you know this, but like we were gone for like about 3 weeks. The kids took all three. We got 10 to 3 year old. Sorry, 10, 6, and 3. It's been cool. Like my wife did a great job sharing everything, but like we were talking a little bit earlier too, like highly, it's so much more doable than you think. We ended up doing trains once we got in there. Airbnbs were great for us, just kind of more space. We could do hotels, plan ahead, but it was super cool. People were super nice. So stayed in the city. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, so I've been back for about 2 weeks now and just still feels like I'm catching up. Just like it kind of makes me wonder at the speed of all these announcements, like just the OpenAI Dev Day, like how is everybody just cognitively keeping up? And honestly, I think that's part of the challenge. Like everybody's delivering so much more software, but then the product managers can't ship or market it any faster. So it's creating these interesting internal bottlenecks. But so we can chat about that. But what you mentioned the crash. Whoa, you want to start there? Like I think I saw Bitcoin went down to like 100 or 110 or something, like 20 grand.
Yeah, I mean, it was the largest liquidation just in like crypto in general. Historically, I mean, it's larger than like the Luna crash or the 2020 COVID dump. So it's a pretty large dump that, just cascaded and kept going. So nuked a
Like
lot of people,
market cap or percentage?
both.
Wow.
So yeah, it was the largest one to date. A lot of people got wrecked. So yeah, it was interesting. I was on a flight back home. So, and randomly airplane didn't have Wi-Fi. So it's one of those ones where you get on before it happens and you get off and all you see is the dead bodies.
Not funny, but yeah. I was wondering why don't they have Starlink? We had the same challenge when we were going over the pond. I was like, dude, well, like just buy the Starlink. I don't understand. But like Panasonic powered Wi-Fi, it's like that sounds wrong. How does your business, is it impacted by these crashes directly, indirectly? Is it good for y'all just because volume goes up?
Yeah, candidly, like I don't want to speak for the company as a whole, but like candidly, like we thrive in volatility because there's more volume, more activity, because volatility creates volume and, volume creates, what we're looking for is, usage. And so when there's a lot of people swapping in and out, whether it's the market going up because of volatility or down, we're unbiased in that sense because it's, advantageous for us because we see our service being used.
Yep. Is it already back up or do they have a rumor like what caused the crash?
I mean, there's lots of speculation floating around. Like a lot of it was like, it basically took place like the minute after Trump announced the China tariffs. There were like last Friday morning. So there's speculation on that. And, there's derivative speculations on, it was China dumping or it was, a staged, dump to short everybody out and wash everybody. But I don't want to get into like the conspiracies or, theories. So I'm sure maybe in a few days or weeks, maybe some dead bodies will float up, and we'll understand what the reasoning was. But right now, I think it's still unknown.
Yeah. Wow.
I guess tying it back to you could tie it back to the tariffs for the time being.
Yeah. Dude, and those were the tariff, like when Trump just like woke up and was like, "Rah, 100%," right? Like, and then we're like, and China's like, "You get no more rare earths," and everyone's like, "What?" Yeah, that's not.
There, we are in, yeah, and we don't want to go into politics too much on this, but like, yeah, we are in such an interesting period. I saw the other day when you mentioned the rare earths, that the US government wants to start setting price floors, which is not like a free, yeah, which is not free market capitalism, which in
Yeah,
some
well,
sense you could almost say would be socialism. And
neither is government taking a stake in what Intel and U.S. Steel and profit sharing with Nvidia. Like, what this like? How is this a Republican Party?
yeah, it blows my mind. And I mean, the things too, like with price floors, like historically, if you took like econ, all you had to do is take econ 101 and they teach you about like equilibrium, supply, demand, all that good stuff.
Yep.
And like econ 101 is like, oh, when you set price floors, it increases the cost. So like we're already battling inflation. And so, but then to offset that, the government comes in to buy or subsidize. And so then you just have more government intervention.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't. There's so many things that are so many levers. It's a complex economy, and it's just it's just like the interesting things where we're pushing free market and less restrictions, but then we're like adding tariff taxes to these to we're reducing the labor market from immigration to incentivize building at home. But it's like some of these things, like we're not going to be smelting rare earths in the United States anytime soon, nor do I think we want to, because that shit's like poison. So yeah, it's I've seen some articles, read some articles on rare earth mining, right? Like that's not the bottleneck as much as like the processing plant, right? And a lot of because you can go to a lot of different places to mine the minerals, but then you have to process it, and a lot of that happens in China. But yeah, man, that's it's a trip. So well, let's pivot a little bit to think about two more topics. OpenAI kind of Dev Day announcements I thought was interesting, and then everyone's talking about the AI bubble, but I thought Dev Day was pretty interesting. So some of the big things that they announced was the apps software development kit. So actually being able to like call in apps natively like booking.com or HubSpot into ChatGPT, which is interesting. I see the benefit for OpenAI because we talked about before kind of the platform disruption. So, first you create a moat, right? Which we believe is context and memory. And then now you open the platform to all these users. And then you're going to add all these features. Well, like it's kind of a disintermediation layer from what I can tell. If you're like, now you don't go to booking.com, you just go to ChatGPT. And then the next thing is you close it, right? So it's like, I'm not saying ChatGPT could replicate booking.com or HubSpot overnight, but like that could be the next phase. So it's like, but those players, like, what are they going to do? Because if it wasn't booking.com, it's going to be Trivago or Expedia, right? Like, I don't, so it's interesting that way. That was one. That was the app. The other one was Agent Kit and UI Kit. And this was kind of like I think the intent here is for OpenAI's has a full stack, if you Langsmith, Langchain, LangGraph, right, which builds out the agent logic. Like, okay, I have a dev role, a test role, a customer service role, and then when do they call each other? When do they ask how they interact? Like you model that logic. That was like agent SDK. But then there's a separate kind of process of, okay, well, now how do I scale that out, right? Like how many nodes, how many endpoints do I need to support when a call comes in for my agent application? And that's where kind of the agent builder agent kit came out, which includes agent builder, chat kit, and some new evals. And evals are just important so that you can actually like monitor the interactions between users and agents. So when they do go wrong, you know why, for lack of a better term. So it's kind of interesting. They've got pretty much their full OpenAI stack now. Use their models plus their frameworks and software development kits to build on OpenAI without anybody else needed, no open source. So they're making a play. The feedback I think was interesting. Most businesses will probably may not go that way. They prefer the openness of the LangFuse, of LangGraph, of Crew AI. But this almost seemed some people were speculating, hypothesizing. This is actually more iOS App Store moment, trying to get consumers or one person companies to build apps and agents faster, which I thought that was interesting. And that kind of makes sense to the B2C will then go to B2B. But I don't know. There was a lot last week. So any thoughts, anything that resonated with you?
Yeah, a couple of things, and more just like anecdotally, or just like sharing observations or what ifs. So, on the booking.com one example, something that I already do, which in sort of taking the example you gave and molding it into this is, yeah, like historically I would use like Orbitz or Expedia, whatever. But probably over the last couple of years, like when I have to book a trip for work, literally I will just go into Google because Google has flights, or I don't know if that's what they call it.
I,
I call it flight
I love
flights.
Google Flights. That's how I book.
Yeah. So I just go in there and I'm like H&L to New York. And then it like says, and then, so that is replace my orbits. Cause that's essentially what orbits does. Cause then it tells you the airlines and it does all of the orbits or booking.com. And I go through it and typically then it just directs you to like the airline. So I could definitely see, and maybe I'm just like a very small, like sector, but yeah, I could definitely see where if I trusted, I haven't tried it, but yeah, maybe next time I need to book a flight, I'm just going to GPT and I say Honolulu to XYZ and it's going to pull up the flights. Cause I already don't, I already only use Google Flights. I don't use Orbitz or booking.com. So in my world, they've already been disintermediated. Like
Yeah,
they no longer use Google in my house.
same, dude. I mean, it's interesting. I'm the exact same way. For work, we have our internal trip source, Concur, whatever platform is used, right? And, that's its own thing. But for all my personal stuff, it always originates in Google Flights because you can see kind of the flexibility, which dates, that gives you is this high, is this low? You can drill into one world, round trip, how many people, premium economy. That's always where I start. Just because we're a family of five, I jump over to Airbnb pretty much almost immediately after that. If and then I guess if I'm going to hotels, I might go Trivago. So it's interesting so when we were planning this massive Europe trip where we really didn't know what we didn't know, we knew, okay, we're flying into Barcelona and out of Barcelona, 20 plus days apart. And we know where we want to go to Munich on these days. So then I would feed that into ChatGPT and it would give me recommendations. I would feed it into Gemini and that would give me recommendations. And so that's kind of how we pieced it together. Then I would hop over to the Eurail app and then I could model that out. So it's definitely, there's a lot of steps there that would be cool to like automate, but like, I'm just, who's going to give ChatGPT that much access? So when you were doing your family trip to LA and Disneyland, like what did you use? I feel like you're like almost a power user of ChatGPT even compared to me. And what kind of research were you doing for your trip?
Yeah. I mean, very similar. I mean, for hotel, I was already like set that I was just going to do like Disneyland. So I just went directly to Disneyland, and book a hotel. So the hotel, but where it did come in handy is asking it questions about planning the days. Cause I haven't been to Disneyland since I was 13. So I have no clue. So I don't know what's new, what's popular, and so asking it like, hey, help me plan like we're there for 3 days. Help me plan day one. We have the multi-park pass, like being explicit when I had, and it actually did a really good job. So like, I will say the first day, based on what it told us, we were able to hit. Now, I think Monday was a lighter day because Tuesday, Wednesday seemed a little bit busier. But our first day, we hit 90% all the rides that it recommended. Now,
Wow.
mind you, that's coupled with us having the lightning pass to leverage that. And then after that, it was like the next 2 days were like fun free for alls, or it was like, oh, we want to, this wasn't on the list. So let's go do this, and it gave me recommendations for, eating, like recommendations for booking, like, where's a cool place to eat? Cause each one too, you use the Disney app, it'll tell you like, it has like some type of special event tied to it potentially, but it'll also, ChatGPT was like, oh, you should definitely eat here in, the, you know, Star Wars or here at California Adventure. So yeah, using it there.
How much was that to eat there for three family of three on
I mean,
Disney?
not bad. You got to allocate the budget. You're expecting to pay. So, but I mean, meals there are relatively good unless you're doing like you know, a character event, then they can get a little bit pricier. But outside of that, like, just grabbing lunch on the go, you can get away with, family of three, we've dropped like $60. So it's not too bad. I guess
Okay,
we're not,
20
we're not,
bucks a That's not
Yeah.
bad because if I go to Whataburger, it's like $15 or Chipotle, it's 15 bucks for me to eat by myself. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's not bad. Is the food edible? Like, or is it just like,
Oh, so that's the thing too. Like we, I mean, I didn't really have any expectations, but the food is there is amazing. Like
all right,
park food, any of like the, hotel food, like it was all good. So I didn't have like a high expectation, but I was like, even like just stopping into like the on the go stuff, like it was good. It's quality. I would long Disney, go by Disney, long it. It's worth it. But back to like some of the AI stuff too, the agent kit. One thing I was thinking about, I've been thinking about it a lot lately. So I'm, and maybe they're already thinking about this, or people aren't thinking about this, but it now integrates with Salesforce. Now integrates. You can integrate your Google Drive, so it can see your docs, read that. It's had the project feature for a while. So one thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is, what if ChatGPT and I know I have Gemini, but I don't do projects in Gemini. But what if ChatGPT just becomes the new like OS and software? Like you just operate in ChatGPT because I can say create a folder for XYZ customer, and then within that folder, like, okay, create a document for this new proposal, and then that's one ChatGPT that I'm in that project, so that I could be like, okay, here's some more information, or you almost have your files, your folder for each customer. You're operating in that. You don't need to go to Word. It could probably have the feature to help you email in the future too. So where I'm going is like, will we need a Google Docs or Microsoft Word if I'm just formatting everything and, in there, and
yeah,
it's sending out my emails or pushing my document to Word. So yeah, that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, is like, is that, and that, is this the end game for all applications? Like you just live within Gemini or GPT, Chat GPT, Open
it,
AI.
I I think I think it is kind of the question. I struggle. I mean, what is it? The WeChat, the Tencent in China, like they kind of have a couple platforms that have everything, your social media, your payment, and I could totally see it going that way, right? Because you start your research, you start your questions. I mean, I just ask it. Just let me just look at my most random. I just ask it so much. Like it just like, hey, does shaking during plank mean your core is weak? Like that's how
Yeah.
I would like. I was asking about the OpenAI tools versus other frameworks out there. It's just because after Dev Day, you're just like, oh my god, there's so much information coming out. I kind of know the domain. How does this stack up against Amazon Web Services, Azure, GCP, and open source? And then it ChatGPT did this great kind of like table. It's like, okay, here's kind of the comparable. Here's where there's a gap. It's like, okay, like and as long as you know one of those, like if you know your AWS stack, you know your Google stack, right? Then you can kind of compare and contrast. I guess my point is, once it has all this context, like, yeah, like why would you kind of leave it? Because then you're gonna have to up level whatever other Gen AI assistant to because it doesn't know you as well. It doesn't know how you like to perceive information or your preferences. Like it's all getting saved there. But where I struggle is, and gosh, software is going to be developed so much faster. So who knows? But nothing happens in a vacuum. Like Salesforce is not going to stop building stuff, right? Like that's what I don't get. But it's like humans are inherently visual, and so the Alexas, the Google devices have been out for a decade. Siri, I get it. Like, oh, these things suck. I just don't know that we're ready to go to a non-visual, only audio and text. Like, I don't know. I just feel like there's more UIs and interactions and that are going to be necessary visually for humans because we can process more data that way. So that's the only thing where I struggle with things like how far it can go, just because of those limitations of like humans can only change so fast, we can only absorb so fast, and we really like visual interactions, which is why like the GUI is so important.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't disagree on those points. Is, the GUI is important, and maybe. I mean, it's your point, like even for Salesforce, because I've thought about it over the last few days because I had this thought like, well, how would my CRM look? And would I trust my GPT CRM? You know, but at the end of the day, it's like, hey, they're already wanting you to like integrate with, you know, all of the other CRMs and BI services and, and write like prompts to say, hey, cool, this quarter's, MRR, who were the top three, they're trying to already like get the integrations. So then it is like, well, it's pulling those and it's doing the visualization. So then you don't need the GUI to go and click and run that report. You're just sort of typing it or talking to it. Like if you just turn on voice and say, hey, pull this month's MRR and who were the top, you know, 3% gainers or whatever, whatever it is. So yeah, it's tough. I could see a world maybe it's just for business where you just have one interface and it is like the chat GPT.
Yeah, that's so hard for me to cognitively wrap my head around. But I guess it kind of goes to like, if they are super successful, all this capex is totally worth it. If they're not, what is this capex funding? So I know you sent me some information on the quote unquote AI bubble. Even Sam Altman says, are we in a bubble? Yeah, I think so. Like hype cycles, right? Investments, and everybody's talking about it. I think that the difference is, it seems like there's real value, there's real revenue coming in different parts, but then people are commenting about the circular investment strategy. The Bain had this report that said, I just was threw this in right now, so I haven't read it, but basically, I asked ChatGPT, $2 trillion in new revenue, according to Bain and Company, the management consulting firm, needed to fund AI scaling trend. Bain and Company's sixth annual global technology report. So, I mean, these bubble and like these circular like vendor financing type deals seem really confusing to me, like how you could track this down. But I mean, capex is amortized. These data centers are over, an average server GPU is usually shorter, 5 years, right? Data centers last longer than that. Power infrastructure lasts longer. So I just wonder, and then I don't know that like I just don't see Amazon, Meta, GC, Google, Alphabet, sorry, and OpenAI just buying GPUs and sitting on them. Like they're going to charge for them. So it's like, are we? Not that we shouldn't be skeptical, but like, are we underestimating? Are we overemphasizing how quickly they need to ramp to revenue, or are we under maybe representing, which is terrifying, how much the companies are gonna save from using this, right? So it's really a share shift versus a true. So the OpenAI, like they're going to grow their revenue, all the hyperscalers are going to grow revenue, but then it's going to shrink the P&L of the end customers. But I don't know that we were seeing that quite yet. So it's a little jumpy there. But what are your thoughts on the whole AI bubble and circular investment, Stargate, Oracle, and bust?
Yeah, it is. I often like you hear the Enron thrown around and like, you know, and I don't want to call it multi-level marketing, but in the sense like the MLM type of like you sell to your new buyer and your new buyer sells to their new buyer and just like you multi-level market it. Only the person at the top is yielding, but I'm wondering though too, and I've thought about this for a while, just in general, like, cause I've seen over the years when I was growing up or coming up, MLMs were bad. So like if you were associated with an MLM,
What's that?
well,
MLM? Oh, multi-level marketing.
yeah, like if you were associated with them, you were like, you're not really in business. Like you're just like a sleazy type of seller selling in something that's not legitimate, right?
Yeah,
But over the last few years, I've noticed like even on Twitter sentiment, like being part of an MLM is like acceptable.
yeah,
Or like you would never have been like, proud to say I sell something that's an MLM versus like, oh, I sell software.
yeah. I think that's like it seems like a society thing, and I think also some people are like, I don't know, there's like crap services out there, right? Because say this. We just did Scouts popcorn sales last Sunday at Walmart, and the comments like they're like $25 for a bag of popcorn. It's like, yeah, they're pretty expensive. It's better to think of it as a donation. And like that's kind of like MLM products a lot of times because like there's so much margin in there to fund other things. But there are legitimate, I mean, so like I buy AdvoCare still to this day for like some of their supplements and things. I mean, I get a discount, but it's yeah, there's good and there's bad just like everything else. But it's like, I don't know, man. It almost feels like we're gonna have to go back to that model where everybody's a little tinker blacksmith with a side hustle. It's like, making your own shoes and shit. It's like AI is gonna take over the world. So what else are you gonna do? But I know that's a little randomly.
Yeah. Well, where I was going with the MLM is it feels like to the circular investment, like the Enron analogies, is like everybody is like getting comfortable with being like, well, that's okay. Like it's okay that, OpenAI is paying NVIDIA and CoreWeave is, paying NVIDIA, but NVIDIA is paying CoreWeave and it's like, no, we're just like, everybody's sort of getting comfortable with it because they know we have to keep the house of cards afloat,
Yeah.
like
It,
we just have to be okay with this now.
it I don't understand like the Oracle contract. It was something like 60 billion and it's like higher. They're like they committed more to Oracle than their revenue. This seems insane. But and this is what sucks because they're not publicly traded companies. They've grown up in the private markets. There's so much money out there that they can do this, and there's no transparency compared to like, an IPO company. So, and that this is probably the point. It's like there has to be revenue. Like OpenAI has to be selling enough revenue to have cash to do this, theoretically, right? Unless they get a bunch of money, bucket of money from NVIDIA and Oracle. I don't know. It is interesting. It's just hard to narrow down. Like, you know, are these companies generating revenue, legitimate revenue enough to cover these investments? It's pretty crazy.
I don't want this to like date me. And, back in, you know, school, like in school, there was like GE Capital was around and people were doing case studies, but GE Capital was infamous for making loans to subsidiaries, but the obligation for other subsidiaries to buy the product of that subsidiary, and they were all financed by GE Capital.
Yeah, I remember this.
And so it's like, it's sort of like that. It's like you get the loan, but everybody as a subsidiary has to buy. So it's like this circular again, like, is there really revenue or are you just sort of like, moving the
Yeah,
balance over? Yeah.
it was weird. It was something like because they've shoved all of the finance, all the liabilities to one part of the company, and then they showed all the growth on the other side. And I think didn't it have something to do with these like the turbines and the engines, and then the maintenance contracts and the way they were recognizing revenue of the maintenance contracts on renewals. And basically they just kept kicking the can. And then like people stopped kind of, buying, renewing. And then that kind of like just the house of cards like totally unwound. Yeah. So yeah, man.
We've seen it before. Like it's just a different, you know,
It is.
I don't know. Maybe we haven't seen it before. Maybe we have, but it just feels like those models of like, it's in a different history doesn't repeat itself, but it
Yeah.
rhymes.
Well, I mean, it helps to be aware, even if we are like everyone says we are in a bubble, but I don't think it's the quite same implications of like .com. But it is. I mean, geez, with OpenAI is spending more than they make. That's kind of crazy to me. But just you just gotta be judicious on your research and how do you hedge and you know it's weird. Like the job market's very kind of stagnant. Not a lot of firings yet, but not a lot of new jobs yet. So it's just like this weird stasis. So I wonder if so much chaos. If the Fed reduces the rates a couple more, I wonder if that like lower interest policy will kind of like encourage the CEOs a little bit, or if they're just gung ho and cutting. I don't know, man. 2026 is gonna be interesting for sure. And who knows, like with the wrenches that the White House has, what they'll do with them.
I mean, if they continue to cut rates, I mean, it'll drive inflation and things will get more expensive. And so, I mean, if the demand doesn't keep up, again, it goes back to like the econ 101, like supply and demand. If the price goes up, you can't afford it, you're not going to buy. So the manufacturer of the widget isn't going to hire more people to build if the demand isn't there. And so, it's,
Yeah.
it's tough. So
Stagflation, baby. Stagflation.
yes.
Well, let's end it on some positive. Is there anything you're looking forward to in the coming week or weekend?
I mean, yeah, I mean, probably getting back to working out. I was like a little hiatus, with the Disney trip. And so get back to the mayhem grind today.
Nice. That's exciting. Yeah, I need to do some push-ups and pull-ups. I did a little bit of legs before I jumped on. Mine are personal where I'm gonna do some pastrami on the Traeger, so I'm super excited about that. So pastrami sandwiches. We're gonna wake up early. We're gonna go to this Texas State Fair in the morning, which is gonna be fantastic. We'll be there probably like 3 to 4 hours, but then we'll come back for a nap, and then like I'll pull out the pastrami and we'll make some pastrami sandwiches. So that'll be really cool, and might sell some more popcorn this weekend. So it's super cool. And then back to the grind on Monday.
Good luck with the popcorn sales.
Yeah, you want to buy some $25 popcorn?
Yeah, maybe have to Venmo you a donation.
Yeah, we do take donations. So, no, man, it is funny. Yeah, it is not cheap, but it goes to a good cause. So, but anyways, then we'll sign off and look forward to catching up next week. Thanks, everybody.
Peace.